And O is, since O can donate to all kind of blood group, it can donate to all kinds of blood group. That means A, B, and O. We call it as universal donor. O is also known as universal donor. It's known as universal donor. Fine? Is it okay? Now, that's all about our blood groups, basically. If we are talking about ABO system, we are just ABO system. This is what is the blood group ABO system. Is it clear? But now, when Karl Landsteiner discovered this, he continued, he checked the blood group and he continued with blood donation. Then the rate of, this fatal transfusion decreased. But one thing he again discovered, that in spite of having same blood group, in certain cases, those days lot of wars were taking place, soldiers were injured, lot of blood transfusions were done. He saw in certain cases, very rare, but he saw in certain cases that when, in spite of having similar blood group, sometimes coagulation is occurring. Is it clear? So he did extensive study on this. Is it clear? And in 1940, the same person, Karl Landsteiner, he discovered 37, he started working on this factor. He discovered that there is another factor present on in 1940. Karl Landsteiner and Wiener. These are the two scientists. These were the two scientists who discovered that apart from blood group A and blood group B, there is one more protein present. I told you on the surface of RBC, there are numerous proteins present. Is it clear? But one particular, they identified that this particular protein, either A or B, what he called as antigen, he found that this was responsible for blood transfusion, to check this for the blood transfusion. But again they found there is another factor which is responsive, which should be checked before. Factor means protein. Is it clear? Which should be checked before blood transfusion, and he named it as RH factor. Why is RH? RH name is taken from rhesus monkey. RH name is taken from rhesus monkey. The same monkey which is like believed to be the carrier, the carrier of AIDS and has transmitted to human. So this is actually blood. When this particular protein was discovered in rhesus monkey before only, but later on he found that this particular protein is found on the RBC of human, and most of the human population has this protein. That is why he didn't take a notice. Okay, he said, and that is why he called this protein as RH factor. Factor is a protein present on the surface of the is a protein. Is it all right? So he called it RH factor because this particular protein was already discovered on the blood RBC of rhesus monkey. So where it is present? It is present on the RBC, on the surface of RBC. So now we have A antigen, AB type of antigen, and rhesus antigen as well. Is it clear? So here a person, if he has this factor on his RBC, then he is RH positive, and if the person doesn't have this factor on his RBC, then he is RH negative. That means if a person is A positive, or suppose I'm talking about a person is B positive, if a person is B positive, that means he has antigen. How will you interpret B positive? He has antigen B, he has antibody A, and he has rhesus factor. Rhesus factor is present. Rhesus factor is present. Rhesus factor is present. Okay, if I'm talking about a person is O negative, how will you interpret O negative? O negative means what kind of antigen he has? He has no antigen. Okay, I'm explaining O. Is it clear? The whole thing we are interpreting the whole thing. No antigen, both antibodies, that is A and B. Okay, and what do you understand by negative? Rhesus factor is absent. Rhesus factor is absent. Is it all right? Okay. Now, let us just have a look on the blood donation on rhesus factor. Like what happens if a Rh positive person is giving blood to Rh negative and so on. See, one thing you have to understand, that if a person is Rh positive, is it all right? That means he has Rh antigen on his RBC. On his RBC. Fine? Okay. He should not have, when we are talking about Rh, this is an antigen again, because it is present on the surface of RBC. This is of course an antigen. So if he has Rh antigen, he should not be having any antibody. He should not have any antibody. So what antibody he has? He has no antibody. Antibody for Rh is not there. Is it all right? Now, if we are talking about a person is Rh negative, Rh negative means his RBC has no Rh factor. His RBC has no Rh factor. So what will you say? If he has no antigen, then he will have no antibody. No antibody. Again, he has no antibody. So what is the net result? The net result is no matter you are Rh positive or Rh negative, you have no antibody. In a healthy person, normal person, a person doesn't have any antibody for Rh factor. If you are Rh positive, you cannot have antibody for Rh factor. If you are Rh negative, there is no antibody as well. Is it clear? Rh negative people do not have any antibody for Rh factor or anti-Rh factor. There is no antibody for that. Is it clear? The net result, we do not have antibody for Rh factor. Now see, where does the problem arise? A Rh positive person. Okay? This is antigen. This is antigen. I hope you will understand this. And the same thing happens in pregnancies also, when the mother is Rh negative and the fetus is Rh positive. Usually the first pregnancy survives, so the first fetus survives, and then like it leads to miscarriages. You understand this? Then that will be easy for you. Is it all right? Antigen Rh positive. He is the recipient. He is the recipient. That means he is receiving blood. And who has donated blood? Rh negative. This is the donor. Let me write donor in a different color chalk. He is a donor. Fine. So this Rh negative comes in. Is it all right? Okay. So this Rh negative comes in, and usually he has no antibodies. Is it all right? No antibodies. Now, what happens when he comes here, when this happens, this Rh positive person starts developing antibodies. Is it all right? So, just let me repeat once more. It will be clear to you. Is the recipient and Rh negative is the donor. Sorry. Rh negative. We give it in a different way. The opposite one I'll show later. Let me first explain this one, then it will be easy. So this blood has gone into his body. Is it all right? So what has gone? One thing you will understand, that this person has received RBC. This person has received RBC. Is it clear? With Rh factor. This person didn't have Rh factor, but he has received RBC with Rh factor. Is it clear to you? Now, this Rh factor is very new to this person. It is absolutely foreign for this person. So immediately what will happen? He will develop antibodies for Rh factor. Let me explain you this one. Rh factor. You remember in class 9 we said when the pathogen comes in, they have antigen on their surface and they develop antibody. Is it? I had told you before also. Is it clear? So here what is happening? Here also, this is a foreign thing. Rh, this person is not used to, this person's body is not used to of Rh factor. But he has received Rh factor. Is it all right? Maybe they are of same blood group. But he didn't have Rh factor. Suppose he is A negative. Is it clear? And this is A. Okay, fine. But this is Rh positive. That means he has Rh factor and this person is not used to, this person's body is not used to of Rh factor. He will immediately develop antibodies for Rh factor so that the antibodies which are formed, they can go and destroy Rh factor. Is it clear? This is a natural process. That is why these are antigens. So suppose I am Rh negative, I have received Rh positive blood, Rh factor has come in my body and Rh is a new protein for me, a foreign protein for me. So immediately my body will develop Rh antibody. Is it clear? And after that, after developing Rh antibody, there will be a reaction, then Rh is destroyed. Is it clear? Now that part is over. First transfusion is over. It's gone. Is it all right? It's over. But what has happened, this person has Rh factor, so that clumping and you know that blood doesn't stay for a long period of time. You know the lifespan of RBC is 120 days, so it is not that fatal. First transfusion is not fatal. But the second transfusion, what happens, this antibodies, this person who has developed Rh factor antibodies, now second transfusion also comes in. Second transfusion, this is the first transfusion during which the person has developed Rh antibodies for Rh factor, and these antibodies are there in the blood. They are not discarded out. Antibodies are there. Is it all right? Now the second transfusion. The second transfusion is also Rh positive. It is also Rh positive. Is it clear? So Rh is there. Now this person has antibodies for Rh factor, which he didn't had before, but he has developed in the first transfusion. So antibodies are already there. Is it clear? So these antibodies immediately go and combine with the Rh protein. Is it clear? And since they are there, they are produced more. So what happens? It immediately the blood clumps up. Is it clear? First transfusion is usually not fatal. Little bit of